Welcome to another weekend here on the platform. It is our tradition to examine developments in the polity, and today's program will follow that course. My name is Sam Omashe. Should it stay or should it go? Is it targeted at the opposition? Has it come at the right time? A victory for the corruption fight? These are some of the questions and comments trailing a Federal High Court verdict upholding federal government's Executive Order 6. Also, Governor Kayode Fayemi has received a fresh mandate. He has the next 4 years to turn things around, or otherwise in Ekiti State. The restoration has supposedly begun. And while the new man is settling in for the task ahead, it is time to dance to the tune of past dealings for former Governor Ayodele Fayose. He and the EFCC are engaged in a tango, and he seems prepared to see the dance to the end. But is the EFCC ready, or will this case go cold like many others before it? Big talk is with Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka to be a first part of two-part interview series.
We deeply regret that comments within a column read on this program, titled Lalong vs. DeLong, first aired on September the 15th, was found to be insulting. We apologize, as it was not intended to tarnish his image. Once again, we are sorry.
Now, I'm joined here by journalist and public affairs analyst Soyinka Akosile. Welcome to this show. And a lawyer, Bosun Oshifowora. Both of them are joining me on this show. Now, let us start with Bosun on this issue of Executive Order 6. Is it more legal than political?
I think it's more political.
Why?
First off, I would say the whole noise about Order 6, Executive Order 6, I say it's much ado about nothing. And another thing that this government is trying to do, I think they're just playing to the gallery. Because let's take it from this angle. Has the executive got powers to make laws? To an extent, yes, constitutionally. Yeah.
That's executive orders.
Yes, the president can make laws. I mean, coming from Section 5 of the 1999 Constitution, he has. But looking at Order 6 and what it is set to achieve, the fight against corruption, are the extant laws adequate? Absolutely. Are they more than enough? Yes. Has the court got powers to restrain someone from traveling? Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, most times, for even simple criminal cases, he pegged his own at 50 million and above. Ordinary cases, when the court sees that you're a flight risk, the first thing is they take your passport. In fact, even the Constitution provides that there's freedom of movement for anybody. Section 41 up to 46, you find it there. It says that anybody can move anywhere within and outside Nigeria. But pursuant to maybe court order, the person's movement can be curtailed, can be restricted. That's as the Constitution provides. Now, the CPA is there. Even the EFCC acts for establishment in 2004.
Explain what CPA is.
Criminal Procedure Act.
Some people don't know that. You just as you before know. That's why Bertrand Russell, no, the playwright, he said all the vocations are a conspiracy against the laity. I want to wait in this language. That's Bernard Shaw.
Exactly. The CPA, Criminal Procedure Act, is used in the South, while the CPC, Criminal Procedure Code, is used up north. All right, so all these laws actually captures what is in Executive Order 6. And I've looked at the Executive Order 6. I looked at it, basically the President is deferring to the Attorney General based on the powers already provided in Section 174
Yeah.
of the 1999 Constitution. In fact, he says that everything he wants to do, he should go through the court, he should try every means available and go through the court. So for me,
And it did.
for me, the executive order is a mere surplusage and is more political.
Yes, you have been
than
talking about the legal. You have not spoken the political. Maybe I should give him to talk about it.
Honestly, I was really enjoying that. Well, I'm hooked in between the two.
Yeah.
At some point, I'll think it is very political. At some other point, when I look at it, I think it's legal. Do we really need?
But it has to be legal first.
First, it has to be legal first to be. Well, I understand the fact that the Section 41 of the
Or it could be chicken and egg.
well-
It could become political, then you find the law. Ghani used to tell me in those days, he said there's a case between a rich man and a poor man.
Okay.
I will find the law for the poor man. So in the ab initio, you are looking for the law first. I mean, you lawyers know about that.
So, I mean, when we rely on what Section 41 of the Constitution says, that everybody can, has the right to move around freely within or outside the country, and even Article 12 of human rights, even people's right, guarantee that movement of people all around the world. But then, when you come political, when you come to the setup, the president also has power to have that executive order. And of course, it was tested in the law court. The Federal High Court actually gave the president that, leeway that you can enforce whatever you want to enforce from 50 million and above with this Executive Order 6. So that's why somehow I was, like I said, between the deep blue sea and the den of lion. So, and the man keeps telling us that it's about corruption. I need this weapon to fight corruption. So, but the question we will begin to ask is, if we take our mind back a bit, sir, to the Decree 2 of 1984, under the same man, when he was a military head of state. But this man keeps telling us that, look, I'm not going to go that way. We'll still, respect people's right, but we need to fight corruption. So, and indeed, if we need to fight corruption, we need to have some instruments. He doesn't want to rely on courts, that people will sit in the court. Look at the grandstanding by by Fayose against the EFCC.
Yeah, we're coming to that.
Okay, we're coming to that. So maybe that is what informs these.
But why is it why it has become political according to many people? It's not just because there is an executive order, but there is a list.
Okay. Where you have a dead man.
Yes. Yeah, you have two dead persons.
Two dead persons. Justice innocent.
My joke is that when the executive order was to stop that person from going to heaven or hell, whatever. That's why people are saying that it's also an issue of timing. Atiku becomes presidential candidate today. Tomorrow you come with president. listing names that have.
Seriously, I mean, that gave the federal government out. I gave them away.
But that is among the elites, because if you go, I saw a vox pop done by one of the papers. All of them say yes, and somebody was at the newsstands where people were gathering and say yes, serves all these people right. So the elites are bothering themselves arguing about whether it is political or not, whether it is yielding political dividends downstairs.
But sorry, on the issue of the list, if there's a list really, why don't you publish it?
They said they wouldn't publish the list, that they had no, but they said that according to those who obtained the press release, they said the list was even attached to it. Is it out of
they did out
of mischief or out of error? We don't know.
I think it would be best for them to publish a list if they really have anything against anybody. You can imagine if you're on the list and you're going abroad, whether on medical or even for pleasure, and they just stop you. So that means that you're talking about 50 people, but at the same time, the thing can apply to 170 million people.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, let's move to the next topic. He bade farewell to his immunity, willingly surrendered to the EFCC in a dramatic scene, and will answer for various corruption allegations leveled against him, including his share of the largesse of former National Security Advisor Sambo Dasuki. That's Fayose.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we.
But tell me about the drama. When I saw it, frankly, I thought the EFCC was a little naive on what by arresting the guy that day. When he came with all the flourish with Governor Wike, with his lawyer, my friend Ozekome, and a few other people. I think Fanika Ode was there too, and so on. I said if I were the one, our EFCC chairman, I would just get into my vehicle, even in their presence. I said, please, Bani Hanya, please clear the way I'm going out. I just drive off, and then turn it into an anti-climax. But they kind of also they took the bait and arrested.
Well, for me, I mean, I think EFCC was ill prepared, and I think they're still ill prepared for this. And he used the word, I mean, a phrase the other time, much ado about nothing. You make so much noise, and then you make your noise like it reaches a crescendo and it begins to come down. It becomes fallacious at the end of the day. Now, you already knew. You said to us that in the last 2 years you've been tracking, the then governor, Ayodele Fayose. On the day this man came, you now told us you're still investigating him. When I read it as a journalist, I was just like, look, is it that somebody is not doing what he's supposed to do, or maybe they just are bidding, and you allow the man? Do you know that as time ticks away, you are allowing Fayose and his team
to grow
bigger, and then the opinion, perception. This is a governor. This is a former governor, for goodness sake. He has a team of perception managers. He has a team of people who write for him. Now, opinions are beginning to change. Can it go to fall flat on the faces of EFCC if care is not taken?
But the problem is they allowed the drama. But my own take from the drama is this: people came with him. The man is there now. All those people, they've gone about their own business.
They're eating
so if you allow people to
amala and somewhere and saying, no, that man. Anyway,
but good enough is, I mean, the court gave them 15 more days or 14 more days to keep him. They went to a magistrate court because they were going to detain him, and Ozekome, SAN said that they had to release him and all of that. So you see, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that why do you have to wait till that last day? I mean, you should have had, before a CIA or FBI picks you up, they have a lot on you. Don't you think, I mean, from a lawyer's point of view?
I beg to differ. In the course of writing the statement, he may have said one or two things, made reference to some things which they may have to go and look. It may be outside or even within what they have gathered, but definitely when the person who or the accused person has written his own statement, there will be maybe extraneous things that they may have to look at. But I think EFCC actually started the drama with that tweet that they're coming for him.
Coming for
so
you,
that's why he wore the T-shirt.
Don't you think there's too much enthusiasm on their part?
That was quite infantile. It didn't make sense.
Yeah. The funfair is over. It is time to get down to work. The people of Ekiti State are waiting to see how the restoration era promised by Governor Kayode Fayemi will go. He described the Fayose era as the end of an era. And so he's starting. But I want to say for once that when I listened to it, I watched him live, I thought that it was one of the most rousing speeches, well-written speeches we have had in this democracy or ever in this country, especially the first half of it. Although I believe too that there was a little bit of rage. And when I had a conversation with the governor, I told him, I said there was a little bit of, your anger went a little bit.
You understand where he was coming from.
He was coming from the background of a man who had run over him in the state raggedly with his slips and with government apparatus and so many things. So,
and he escaped by the whisker.
Yes.
Managed to escape.
So But when you win, you have won. You forget the past. So what do you say?
The rage is informed by the debt left behind.
It's part of it.
Because
it's a lot of debt. And he said we don't have the full
170 something
billion. And he said we don't have the full record yet.
By the time Fayose was leaving, he told them that your 6 months salary, Fire me will pay. I mean, come on.
How do you want him to pay?
I don't know. So
but I thought that his election is not what, properly speaking, is called a mandate, because just a little bit of edge he had over his opponent, which means that a substantial percentage of people in Ekiti still love the man, whose error you describe as an error.
Well, it's very interesting. Politically speaking, and I will say this anyway, Fayose, for whatever it is worth, has the people of substantial number of Ekiti people behind him. I do not know how he manages to do it, but they love him, they follow him. You understand? However, when we're talking about political correctness, we look at the optics and we now look, this is not a right thing that a man should be doing. But then the average, commoner there does not care. But maybe because he eats more with them, or
people say that.
I don't know how he does it. Because that election, I was thinking that Dr. Fayemi should have beaten him blue and black, given the background.
It was not that easy.
It wasn't easy at all.
It was not that easy.
common phrase now is that every politics is local.
It's local.
When Fayemi came, his first coming, I mean, both of them are now like Jesus Christ.
Yes,
there's the first coming, there's the second coming.
Yes.
When he first came, he ran an elitist, elevated kind of government.
Yes.
He did very well.
He did well.
But you see, even the Fayose people, I mean, some of them who were, who served in the cabinet of Fayose told me, he wasn't even in Lagos here, that look, my friend, Dr. Fayemi's administration is the best in the history of our state.
Yeah.
But he will not win this election.
But to the people,
they said it was not connecting.
It was not connecting.
That's
with
why
the
stomach infrastructure came into the conversation.
so Fayose knew his
now the people are probably not as enamored of stomach infrastructure. That's why it came back.
That's why it came
They
back.
need proper infrastructure.
Yes, they want proper infrastructure. All right. Thank you very much, Bosun and Bega.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Now we are on the cusp of what I might call new political ferment, with the major political parties now decided on who their representatives would be. Now, how would you assess the state of the nation?
Parlous. Very frankly depressing. I know that when one uses expressions like this, there's a tendency to say, oh yes, these are the doomsayers. But whether people feel that way or not, my frank assessment right now of the nation is a state of something close to anarchy, which uncertainty, insecurity, and of course the real phenomenon of genuine hardship. So that is what whoever is coming in has to face, and I think we owe it a duty to let all aspirants know that in advance.
We have been running a country based on sentiment, and countries don't develop without ideas. How can we move from a republic of sentiment to a republic of ideas? How do we get there?
You put your finger on it. I'm very happy that you have isolated this as one of our major problems. Sentiment. That sentiment includes also familiarity. It goes even beyond, shall we say, clannishness, it's just like what we're used to, the tendency to say, oh no, it's okay, let's just manage it. They've been with us a long time, we've been with them a long time. Why opt for the possibility of something new, especially if it threatens to be drastically new? And yet, we need a departure. No, I don't like to use the word revolution, but let's say we need revolutionary thinking, at the very least. Frankly, I'm tired of the old brigade, and I'm no longer sentimental about any politician, no longer sentimental about any past record, beyond giving credit where credit is due. But I believe that we're overripe for a drastic change.
But when a society is overripe for a drastic change, it doesn't mean it happens. You can have a revolutionary situation without having a revolution. We've had it many times, you're aware of this. And you have been in the throes of Nigerian crisis from the very beginning, and so on. In the 60s, when you wrote your play Dance of the Forest, you kind of, as it were, anticipated all of this idea of trying to account, to give account for what has happened. And we never give account. Why do you think we can ever change when nobody is ready to give account and we are ready to remain where we are? How do we then say we are not going to surrender?
Well, first of all, we've got to lose, there's a kind of defeatist attitude also, in addition to sentiment. I mean, in fact, the two things are complementary, such as, well, there's nothing we can do about it anyway. And then you try to rationalize the situation by saying, hey, yes, these are familiar hands, you know, at the till, why don't we continue? And the personalities involved in politics also matter. In other words, the temperament, their own upbringing, their ideological conviction, even over and above, let's say, organization. It has to begin with individual conviction. I've been talking to a number of young people, but they asked to talk to me, and I mean beyond aspirants. I've met a number of young aspirants in my office. By now, at least half a dozen, and I'll still be meeting one or two more. And one thing I try to impress on them, I'm very happy, first of all, that quite a number of them are coming out and viable, not just the old, remember the old time when we had even things like you chop, I chop, party,
yes,
and
yes,
so on. I'm talking about real, serious, concerned people. Not for the first time, I've met them. And the number is growing. And what we can do to assist them, you know, both in terms of their conviction in their own capabilities, and also to assist them to move, to begin to effectuate, you know, that conviction in public terms. That for me is what is left for people like me to do. I tell them, for instance, I give them examples. I set them examples. I give the instance of Lula, of the former president of Brazil, who's in trouble right now,
yes.
incidentally, but we don't know the rights and wrongs of that, and we know the politics of Brazil can be really mean and dirty and so on. So we reserve judgment. The important thing is, how did he come to power? He told me. He said, I would get up in the morning with a stack of cyclo-styled manifesto. I will stand in the crossroads, you know, like these. He was here, you know, those newspaper vendors whom you see there.
Yes.
And they will say, my name is Lula. I'm a trade unionist. I want to be president of this nation. These are my ideas. And people were curious. They would take the sheet of paper. Some of them probably throw it away. They didn't know. He said, but at least they would take it. They would take it away. And gradually, you know, the groundswell, people began to think, who is this individual? Why does he stand? Is it crazy? Sun or rain is standing at railway stations, garages, crossroads, and so on, distributing this day after day after day. And eventually, it began to work. I was also teaching in the United States at the time. In fact, very fortunately, I happened to have a series of engagements around the university, the various institutions, universities, at the time when Obama began his campaign. And I witnessed the transformation in people's thinking. I saw how young people flocked to him. I saw how young people began to influence their own parents, even rednecks, those who admitted they were rednecks and racists and so on. And it began to occur to them, wait a minute, why don't we try this new? And I saw volunteer work. I saw school students sleeping in the offices, going out to buy hamburger and a Coke, coming back to work, and going out and coming in. It begins very slow. What did the Chinese philosopher say? You know, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step.
Yes.
And we want the young people, I really encourage young people, take that first step. And then see how people react. If you fail, it doesn't matter. But then let us see that there is some revolutionary thinking
going on.
So it's the only suggestion I can make.
Yeah, but this society is kind of peculiar in many regards. If you have that enthusiasm and you have that vision, there are factors in Nigerian politics that you still have to think about and obstacles you need to navigate. You have religion, you have tribe, and then you have the almighty issue of money, and corruption. And then you have all of this. If you are not in control of all of these factors, you can't go far. So some people are saying, why are these young people, some of them are not even young, like Obi Ezekwesili. Why are they bothering themselves about this? And you too, you tried it sometime. In the past, you wanted to. You had your own party.
But yes, but what shocked me with that was that people thought I was going to run for president. I said, why should I form a party to become president? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
It's not that I hadn't given it any thought. When I was invited by some parties to stand, I gave it very serious thought. I said, wait a minute, you criticize a lot, you propose ideas, you try to influence people, you are inside, you know politicians and so on. Why, let me think about it. And maybe for 24, 48 hours, I seriously thought, why not? I can mobilize, but I realized it's a full-time preoccupation. Anybody who wants to go into politics must be prepared to sacrifice a number of other things. I have international commitments, I'm a teacher, I'm a writer. So I cannot, stay away from this, my real calling, creativity. Otherwise, it'll only be half a mind on politics. I'm eager to go back to my work. And so in the end, I said no. But I said, let me form a political party for young people. Yeah. And I did.
We had people who have done it, people like you. I mean, this guy in East Africa, I've forgotten this, Václav Havel.
Yes,
Havel. Writer. And the Latin American wrote something in the Andes. Who won the Nobel Prize?
I know,
the Feast of the Goats.
Well, let me tell you a secret. Okay. During the time when I was forming, what's his name now? I'm looking at him as I'm talking.
Yes.
I happened to run into him.
Is it Jose? No, not Jose.
No, not Jose Saramago.
No.
Before we finish, I'm sure the name will come back. And so I ran into him and I said, you ran for president at one time, and so on and so forth. I said, I'm thinking of forming a political party for young people. I said, I told him I'm not even running. I said, but I'm trying to form a party for people. And let me talk to you about your experience. You know what he said? He said, Wole, don't try it. He said what he went through, he would never forget. And if he had a chance all over again, he wouldn't try it. Well, that's a very torrid zone, by the way, very different from here. But I'm just saying that don't look at the surface issue, what you read in the papers alone. The nitty-gritty, he just said, don't try it. All right. But I happen to disagree with him. I think if one is, if I'm willing, for instance, if I saw a potential candidate I really believe in all the way and who's ready to do what I know I should have done if I wanted to be president, which is drop everything else, I'm willing to drop things to back an individual like that. Because you wake up every day, you see what's happening in other societies, you travel a lot, and you just become miserable. And it's not a good condition to be in.
One of the problems we have today is the issue of religion.
Yes.
And it has been turned into a tool for political manipulation. In the Northeast, for instance, it started as a group of people who had no jobs, and eventually the political elite hijacked it. And then when they discovered they had nothing to do, somebody put them together and turned them into what they wanted to do. You may not remember this. In your own book, The Interpreters, one of the characters defined religion as the justification of existence. Is that what we are seeing now, that everybody's turning religion into their own platform and they've lost even the mystical quality or virtues of faith?
Yeah, it serves us right. Okay, it serves us right. I'll tell you why. At the beginning, we decried religion for becoming a business. Religion became a business in this country. Still is.
Still is, yes.
We should have been wise and just left it as a business instead of criticizing it for becoming a business. Now, as you observe, it has become a political, in many instances, a political menace, become even a political threat, the way it is used and manipulated. I think we'd have been so much happier if we just allowed the religionists to make as much money as they want and leave politics alone. But of course, from time to time, as you know very well, religion and politics do merge. Religion has facilitated revolutions in some society. Religion has been used effectively, positively, to counter, shall we say, some negative trends in society. And so religion becomes just another factor, either handicap or asset, depending on how it is used. I met some really solid political animals who are also very religiously inclined. They don't mess with their religion. At the same time, they don't mess with their political principles. One thing reinforces the other. As you know, we've had liberation theology, for instance, in these backward Latin American feudalistic and reactionary countries. It worked. So we have to look somewhere else. Well, in addition to, not that we ignore it, no. And from time to time, I'm moved to wonder, has there, over the years, emerged a rather deleterious national character? In other words, is there something wrong with us in this country, which we don't find elsewhere? I mean, other people have other things wrong with them, but our own, in many ways, is unique. It's like there's nothing we touch that we don't degrade eventually. Even the positive assets which we have, achievements which we've had, and we sit down and we watch it somehow deteriorate. Whether it's material, if it's a road, it will deteriorate. If it's an idea, it'll be manipulated in a way in which you no longer recognize the idea. So I'm baffled at my age. I confess that I can't put my finger on what has gone wrong with us. I just can't.
But you were in the 60s when you risked your life across the Niger to Biafra at that time. And we were trying to arrange what was called the third force. You did a lot of, you documented it copiously in you must set forth at dawn. And many people said, Wole Soyinka was just being an idealist. First thing, he went to hijack a radio station. The next thing, he jumped over. And then even in the book, you're talking about not only Nigeria. As a young man, you were looking at saving the whole of Africa. Where did that idealism come? Or did you even at that time see it as idealism?
You've asked a question which I find myself constantly compelled to answer. And I haven't, again, another thing I haven't put my finger on is my inability to tolerate what I'm convinced is wrong. It's sometimes I like, there's a passage in one of Chinua Achebe's novels, I forget which one now. It wasn't Things Fall Apart. But anyway, it doesn't matter. What that character said was, if I see somebody come and defecate on my doorstep.
Things fall apart. What do you do?
He said,
if a man comes and defecates, what shall I do?
I break his head. Yes. Okay. I'm very much like that. You know. And I'm not at ease. I know it's there. Yeah. That defecation is there. Yeah. I can't step over it. I cannot walk around it. I must find out who left it there and deal with that. Deal with that situation. After it's over, fumigate, and then proceed on the educational process. You don't do things like that. It is wrong. And so it's a matter of temperament. It could also have something to do with my childhood. I was literally born into upheavals in my society, the women's uprising.
Yes. Yeah.
I became a courier between the various and I enjoyed it.
Well documented.
It was like, yes, this is what
this is how life is about. That's how life should be.
That's how life should be. There. You see something wrong, you do something about it. You mobilize. This has been this is a norm of my existence. Either you mobilize quietly. In one way or the other, I'm always mobilizing. Whether it's quietly, whether it's publicly, even when I'm silent, I'm talking to people and discussing, possibilities, alternatives, and so on. It's only then that I feel at ease and can dedicate myself to my own work. If I don't, it interrupts my normal work. So that's why when people say, okay, why do you do this? I say it's because I'm selfish. I'm self-centered. I want to get back to my work. So I have to take care of that first. So it's not altruism, it's not commitment, it's not anything. I just want to get back to my work. That really is where I'm a happy man.
It's just like a poem I think I read some time ago by Tushenko when they were asking, he was saying that why do people call me a hero? Or why do they say I do what I do? He said, I'm not really interested in being a hero. All I want to do is get rid of this problem that I'm doing so that I can get to other things I want to do.
Absolutely. I agree with it 100%. I would not
Yes, there's in a sense that even in a classical sense, the hero doesn't think of himself as a hero.
No.
He just wants to get things done. And then eventually things rise up to where they may.
There's nothing I'd love better than to pick up my gun and go hunting, disappear into the bush for ages, not even see any human being in between my writing. That's how I like to relax. I don't like to relax on the barricades. That's no relaxation. I don't like to take on villains and so on. That's no relaxation for me. No. I want to go for a walk in the bush when I'm not writing, or when I'm not producing a play, when I'm not teaching young people. That's what I like to do.
The other issue that I want to talk about is the issue of ethnicity. Some people, when V.S. Naipaul was here, I spoke with him, and he said it's something that we can turn, especially with our population, to advantage. But democracies have been known not to do well with this kind of diversity. Do we have to have a different kind of system for it to work in Nigeria? Because people see democracy as an ideology of consensus. And we have like 250 or more ethnic groups and so on. So everybody moves their own direction. Even within some ethnic groups, you have sub-ethnic groups. Even within ethnic groups, you have sub-ethnic groups with their own tendencies and idiosyncrasies. So how does democracy really fit into this kind of system, if not chaos?
Well, ethnicity, first of all, we have to be very careful there, because when the imperators, whether they are French, British, German, and so on, while they were using ethnicity as a factor, as a tool of control, they then turn around and try to persuade us that ethnicity itself is a negative thing, it's a backward thing. They will use words like tribes. In their own case, they will use nations, you know,
natives,
clans, you know, narrow family interest. Whereas, what do? Irish, Welsh, Scottish. The Scots recently tried to secede.
Exactly.
You know, they had a referendum. They have their own parliament now, concessions here and there.
Yeah.
Whereas, when it comes to us, we were not encouraged. We were not given time to see the possibility of strength in ethnic recognition, in which the various ethnic groups come together and say, look, this is the way we've been doing things. These are our values, but somehow we've all been put together. How do we now, as ethnic groups, utilize those internal strengths? This is what we try to do in Pronaco. Yeah. When we got together against the threats of the then incumbent, who said Nigerians had no right to sit down and try and fashion a constitution themselves. That was when I joined NADECO. I said, let me see what you're going to do about the freedom of movement, association, of thought, of discussion, and proposals of ideas. Let's see. Yes. So we went through that over a year. Remember when we were sitting? And how did we compose how do we get together? What yardsticks, what parameters did we use? We did a cross-section, sort of grid work. Yeah. At one level, professionals, teachers, labor unions, doctors, and we use the associations right across. Farmers, traders. So you had those lines. Then we did the ethnic groups. We identified virtually, I challenge anybody to mention one ethnic group that was not represented in Pronaco. So we did that grid work. In that manner, you found every profession and every ethnic group represented. That's what kept us working for over a year. And whether you talk about the Ogoni, or you're talking about the Tive, or you're talking about these so-called bush people recently discovered people in the Abuja area. Yes. We made sure that everything was represented.
All the people you describe as living in suspended
modernity. So we recognize the fact that there can be strength in ethnic groups, because that then becomes inclusive. And then you compare your histories and your traditions, and that way you might even find there is more commonality than is generally admitted. You might find that it's just a question of qualitative way of approaching a problem, rather than a core difference between methods of addressing that problem. And I'm telling you, some of those sessions, it was a very trying period. We fought, quarreled, walked away, came back, you know, and so on. But it was a marvelous exercise. And incidentally, it was recognized, monitored by foreign institutions, parliamentarians, you know, people in government, outside government, labor unions, and they found it very useful. They even supported us materially, and they were eagerly awaited the interest, and they were given copies of the interest, and they found that there were very useful things in it. But of course, where is it sitting today? It's gathering dust with yet other constitutional conferences, constitutional amendment sessions, geared, of course, towards tenure, elongation, etc., etc. We won't go in that direction. And sometimes, of course, when the government is in trouble, doesn't know what to do about it, you say, okay, let's have a constitutional discussion.
Then there'll be a budget.
Thank you very much. Then you bring in some of the brightest minds, former judges, former foreign ministers. They sit down, they work at this thing, they produce a document. And where is that document today? It's gone underneath. So the manipulations against the progress, even the potential, the options which are available to this country, you know, they're always being manipulated by those who are in power.
You gave some very, very incisive discussions on restructuring. And that brings me back to sometime last year when I was at UI, and a student asked me, I still remember, I said, "Sir, do you think that once restructuring is done, all our problems are solved?"
It's not all about that.
He said, does it mean that once we restructure this country, all our problems are solved?
Oh my God. Yes, there's always that tendency to oversimplify, in many minds. Yes. And unfortunately, you know, sometimes I think that while people misunderstand, some people misunderstand, others manipulate. I use that word often, but I'm afraid this is my experience in this country, constant manipulation.
Yes.
They manipulate the meaning, the genuineness of it. They twist it into a simplistic
technical,
yes, which they can then proceed to knock out.
Yes.
You know, you hear things like, for instance, it's not the country, the nation which needs to be restructured.
It's the people.
It's the people. It's not the people. It's actually their thinking. It's not their thinking. It's really their ambitions. And they go on with this oversimplifying, compartmentalizing. Whereas when you talk about restructuring, it's just one of the many ways of addressing the ills of the nation. There was one American president who used to make fun of, I think, another one, a deputy or vice president. He said he's the only American that he knew who could not chew gum and walk at the same time. Which I thought was that's the nasty thing to say about somebody, an American who could not chew gum and walk at the same time. Well, I'm afraid many of our disputants, especially when they have a political agenda, are like that. They try to suggest that you cannot restructure and do any other thing at the same time. And they move along that line into the absurd extent that what people are saying is that once you restructure, all problems are solved. And then they make fun of it. So you see, these are people supposed to be thinking, whereas that's not the issue. You know, and the analysis given by serious individuals should be enough to let people know that even for everybody, restructuring means different things. But if you ask me, restructuring, one word, I tell you, decentralize. All right? Then we can begin to elaborate. Is it revenue allocation, acquisition, what? Are you restructuring boundaries also? Security, etc., etc. But centrally, and this is what the opponents of restructuring try to avoid, decentralize. or to use the colorful expression of former governor, unbundle.
Unbundle, yes.
Just decentralize. Give more autonomy to states in the running of their affairs, in the decisions of their priorities, more autonomy also to local governments, because this is the way the benefits of society reach the grassroots, etc., etc. And everybody knows what restructuring is about, but they pretend that they don't understand.
Why do they pretend? Why?
Because it's convenient, especially when this present system suits them. The proliferation of the bureaucracy, which enables all kinds of idleness because everything is centralized. You can always blame things on the center. You can always say it's the center withholding your funds, whereas the question is, what are you doing with the funds which you have at the moment? Then the center says, oh yes, if we release these funds, all they will do is waste it. You say decentralize the police. They say, decentralize the police? Oh, that means there will be oppression here and there. There'll be nepotism. There'll be insecurity. What do you have right now? Have you ever known this country more insecure than it is at the moment? And then you're saying police should be able to operate and be recognized at various levels. That is not happening now. When I hear about certain police successes, and I have lots of friends in the police, just as I have lots of enemies. I have friends and enemies everywhere. And we talk very frankly.
Which is normal.
And they admit that their closeness to the grassroots, to the people, to the communities they serve, and the trust which the community, which they're able to, to impress on the people, was what made them have those successes, which suddenly come out dramatically, where you feel a particular cause has been forgotten and lost. You find the police have been working at certain levels on it, and then the success comes out. So the people in power should not be afraid of restructuring. They will still get what they get, but at least let the sense of participation, of belonging, of ownership, and responsibility even, spread it around. Don't just hoard it to yourself, because that enables you to hoard the resources. That's what's at the bottom of it.
There are people have ever said that most of the regions in the country really support restructuring, no matter how it is defined, except one region, which is the Northwest. How do we crack that?
I heard voices against restructuring from a certain part of the country, and then I read a news item that oil had been found in commercial quantities in that region. And the next thing I knew, the voices that were coming out, that we're not really against restructuring. So it shows that people are not really thinking holistically. They're more egotistic. What's in it? How can they control whatever they happen to have? So I was going to say that let's have a genuine indaba, area of power. But then, what have we done with the power we've had? We've had some very useful ones. The one under Jonathan brought out some very remarkable suggestions, optional results.
The one under Obasanjo.
Where is the country?
That one was ruined with his third term.
Well, you know it. I don't want. I promise people I will stay off that subject for some time.
We're going there.
But it's important for me, however, to say that from the beginning I knew that was a time waster. And when I was nominated, I was actually, the way the distributor, the governor could send some people could be chosen here and there. When he asked me, I said, please, let's remain friends. Don't even come near me with that, because I know where it's headed. And talk to those who participated in that conference. They said they never felt their time wasted and the manipulations behind scenes. They just go very frank, including didnt chiefs.
Yes.
Yes, who said, how can their time be wasted like that?
Exactly.
You know, very resentful. So I'm talking just about the serious ones. You know, let's not waste time
with the other ones. Yes.
But the material is there for any serious ruler. You know, when Buhari got there, he was very, very hostile, openly hostile. Today, he's not openly hostile, but he's still hostile.
Yes.
His body language, the policies, he's ignoring, you know, even the possibilities of moving in the direction of restructure. Is still completely hostile.
Yes. Well, this has been the first section of the interview with Professor Wole Soyinka. Next week, we have the second. Okay, thank you very much, sir, for being on this show. Thank you, sir. Well, thank you for watching the program today. You can read my published columns and articles on my website, www.samomasheye.com. Also follow me on Twitter. My handle is @SamOmasheye. Enjoy the rest of your day, and until next time, be good.